Hey YouTube, this is Johnny with the first episode of Weekly Aphorisms, where I take a little time each week to unpack and explore some choice, wise, and witty sayings throughout history, and hopefully help you put them to good use in your life, and put them to good use in my own life as well. So, this week's aphorism is, "Fear has no brains, it is an idiot." And it comes to us by way of a short story called The Moonlit Road by Ambrose Bierce, who was an essayist, journalist, literary critic, short story writer, was essentially one of those people that's just like an all-around witty person. He was probably most famous for the so-called Devil's Dictionary, which is full of sardonic wit and wisdom and can easily be found online. It's pretty funny and totally worth reading for anybody. So before I get started, obviously there's going to be spoilers, so if you want to go read the story, you can find it on Google really easily. Just type it in, and it should be easy to find a free copy of it at several places. But basically the story is about a series of horrible mistakes that all occur because of fear. And because and the story is told in three parts from three different perspectives, right? So the first perspective is that of a Joel Hetman Jr., who is a wandering stranger that we can that's like the son of another person, and then there's the wife, and then the father. And you have to read the story to really understand it completely, because each of the perspectives that the story is told from leaves out an important aspect of what happened. So you have to read it a bit like a detective story. But essentially what happens is the husband ends up tragically murdering the wife, mistaking her for a burglar, or perhaps someone come to seduce her. If I remember right, he had all these suspicions and stuff about it. But anyway, I want to read the relevant part that the aphorism comes to us from. "At last it came, a soft, irregular sound of footfalls on the stairs. They were slow, hesitant, uncertain, as of something that did not see its way. To my disordered reason, all the more terrifying for that, as the approach of some blind and mindless malevolence to which there is no appeal. I even thought that I must have left the hall lamp burning, and the groping of this creature proved it a monster of the night. This was foolish and inconsistent with my previous dread of the light. But what would you have? Fear has no brains, it is an idiot. The dismal witness that it bears, and the cowardly counsel that it whispers, are unrelated. We know this well, we who have passed into the realm of terror, who skulk in eternal dusk among the scenes of our former lives, invisible even to ourselves and to one another, yet hiding forlorn in lonely places, yearning for speech with our loved ones, yet dumb and as fearful of them as they of us. Sometimes the disability is removed, the law suspended. By the deathless power of love or hate, we break the spell. We are seen by those whom we would warn, console, or punish. What form we see to them to bear, we know not. We know only that we terrify even those whom we most wish to comfort, and from whom we most crave tenderness and sympathy." So, and that comes from The Ghost of Julia Hetman, which is one of the perspectives the story is told from. Now, the point of this aphorism is that fear destroys our ability to think, and instead of thinking, we only react to things. Being unable to respond, we make mistakes in our judgment, and these mistakes cause us to perceive the world as quite different from what it really is. Julia, her husband throttles her because of her. Julia becomes her husband throttles her because of her husband's fear of a cheating wife. He assumes wrongly that there's a man running away in the story. He was likely a robber, but it was someone who had come to like sex her up or whatever. And tragically, out of jealousy and fear, he murders someone who, despite his lack of trust, he loves dearly. And he spends the rest of his life thinking that she cheated on him, and never comes to grips with the truth of his heinous action. So let's unpack this a little bit. I mean, some lessons from this that we can apply in multiple ways are that we have to be bold and courageous in our search of truth and not let fear get in the way of that. Fear of social ostracization, fear of failure. I had to get over it to start doing these YouTube videos. Fear of all sorts generally causes us misfortune. Not usually the things that we're afraid of, right? So while I think some might say that fear is healthy, as there are things we ought to be rightfully afraid of, but really I would think it's not fear, it's reason that we should embrace, and an awareness of causes and effects to help us act rightly, and this will allow us to gauge risk effectively. Fear as a replacement for reason throws our analysis of risk and reward out of whack and has many perverse effects on our lives. So, you can't replace knowing that a bad thing might happen for just generalized fear. That's not helpful. So it seems to me that fear comes from the unknown. And it's one of the reasons why continuously learning about the world is so important, because it helps us make better decisions and be more self-possessed instead of being possessed by our emotions, including fear. Another aspect of life that drives fear is the kind of feeling of emptiness, of not being enough, of not being able to really engage with the world, or feeling powerless. And when we're too attached to things, it's not helpful. I don't want to go too far and say we should never be attached to anything at all or anything like that, but it can be easy to become too attached to, our own attempts to change the world, or things that are our values in the world, or whatever. I think this becomes particularly striking when we talk about fear of death. I mean, I definitely struggle with this in my own life, but you have to understand that the truth is we're all going to lose our lives someday, and we ought to try to enjoy being alive and doing the right things and being a good person to the extent we can, because focusing on that fear only robs us of the time we could be living and enjoying ourselves, being productive, being around caring people, and so on and so forth. In light of this, it seems really appropriate to be reminded of this by a ghost, right? So anyway, I don't want to take too long on these videos because I have a lot of other things I want to do. But fear has no brains, but we do. So I think it's best if we all try to make the best of that. So keep your wits about you, and until next time, peace.